this?
I actually think that it's an evolution and it's an extension. I'm not what is called like a maxi, like you have to do this or that. It's sort of always a mix of both things. It's salt and pepper. It's capitalism and socialism. Like you have like good things and bad things. You have in democracy you have centralization. We have sort of like mixed hierarchies and stuff because we need that. We can't really put everything into a referendum, right?
Right.
Like small decisions and like if we and this also goes into like more like local stuff. Like if you go to a party, you're not gonna ask everybody in the party like what song to play next. Like we'll assign a DJ. We'll delegate our votes to a DJ.
Right.
So it's the same thing, but Web3 and blockchain, it gives us options, more options.
Oli, great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
Thanks for coming down. Let's start by hearing a little bit about you, who you are and what you do.
So I'm Oli. I'm the founder of Mojoflower, which is a startup focusing on shareholder registry on Web3. We built on the Stellar blockchain. And sort of why I'm here is sort of just I've always sort of been into like startups and creating things and being in innovative projects and starting small businesses and stuff like that. And that sort of drove me to the place where I am today, I guess, yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Mojoflower. What does it do? What's its value proposition? And what problem is it solving?
Yeah, so the original idea behind Mojoflower was to create a beneficial ownership registration, like a company registration for just like government. So when you go and register a company, you would sort of tokenize the shares at the government level and they would dispense the tokens into your wallet. By doing it that way, we would be able to get a complete ownership history throughout the full life cycle of the company. And that would really help government and also financial institutions and owners, shareholders and all stakeholders to focus on and understand the ownership structures. But since we sort of build on Web3, like there's a whole world of opportunity that sort of comes with it, that's sort of inherent with the technology. So let's say you onboard your company, like you and me are starting a company together. We can put our shares into the account. We set up our account. We have an identity for a company. We have a personal account, and you have a personal account. So now we sort of, from the get-go, we can also start exchanging payments. We can start signing into other services that are building on Web3. So while we sort of, the key value proposition is asset ownership registration, but it comes with an online identity that sort of helps you navigate the Web3 space.
Right, okay, so how has traditionally this been done?
This is actually quite remarkable from what I feel is that normally companies, they have like shareholder lists in Excel, at least smaller companies, so they don't have a good system to maintain these records. And this means that let's say I transfer my ownership to a company. Like here in Iceland, if we do a contract and I sell my company over to you, I have to wait until you report it in to the government until the final ownership is cleared. So I'm still listed owner until you do something.
Right.
But I have sold it and I might have received payment. So if we do it on blockchain and Web3, we can do this instantly. So the transfer of ownership would just happen by the time that you send me your money or your payment, and we can update the government registry. So, probably the big problem that is in this like shareholder field is that people have difficulty trusting information that is available. So you have like publicly available information, but that's only updated like once a year, or reported at various intervals. So I might go and report something into the government registry. That will be published, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks from now, or depending on what type of data. But in the meantime, I can turn around and sell my shares. So by the time it gets published, the information looks completely different from what it is.
Yeah.
So you have this lag in the system, which sort of systematically makes the whole thing less transparent. So understanding ownership structures can be really complex. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'd like to understand is who's the main beneficiary from having clear ownership structures? Is it the government, or?
It's twofold. It's great for shareholders and stakeholders of the company. For instance, if you pass away, it's much better to have a clear ownership record for your beneficiaries when you pass away. Also for financial institutions, they are able to trust your information much better if you have it transparent and open and clear. It also lowers cost, compliance cost, because you won't need to update records manually as often. You don't need to call your lawyer, accountant, and sort of update a whole network of people and stakeholders. So, and at the same time, the government gets much more clear data. So essentially, all the stakeholders who need to handle ownership information are the beneficiaries.
Right.
So you can increase trust, and you can increase the ability to transfer shares. So it's sort of like, it's sort of like the smart thing to do, but it solves a problem for multiple stakeholders.
Okay. And what do customers of Mojoflower say about the company?
They actually like it very much, which is really happy. I think we have a really positive sort of environment. Mojoflower is like, I don't know, it's sort of like magical and fun and bright, and we want to do things a little bit less corporate. And we don't have actual paying customers at the moment because we're still in beta. But the feedback that we're getting is generally very, very positive and very inspiring. We feel that the whole ecosystem and sort of like the brand and the company and how we do things is actually inspiring people to do things in a positive way as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Now let's shift gears a little bit. Tell me about the name.
Yeah.
Where did the name come from?
There's actually not like a really aha moment or something. It actually started out as a Reddit nickname, but it generally sort of describes the mission that we're on, and it describes how I'm feeling, how we want the company to be. Because I mean, it's a flower. Flower is a generally positive thing. It sort of grows. It attracts life. It gives you color. It does a lot of nice stuff. And Mojo is sort of just like magic. So right. It's like a magical flower that makes magical things happen. Right. And that's something that we also want to sort of push into the brand and the whole experience. Is that we want it to be like we've gone through many catchphrases and stuff like what's our single line? It's like have fun growing your business and stuff like that. And so we want the whole experience for when you start a company, when you're running a company, we want it to be like a really nice, positive, non-corporate setting. So we're trying to sort of anchor us down in that spirit.
Well, I think that's an amazing purpose to have. I think as business owners as well, I can honestly say that setting up the business is not fun, at least not from the registration part of things. So I think business owners will welcome that approach.
Yeah, and that's something that we also discussed, like, because we are founders, and on this journey, it's like, we have this great idea, we're gonna do this stuff, and we're gonna like change the world, and then we're gonna be like, how are we gonna file this
All the admin.
form? Yeah, instead of just like having it really interactive, really intuitive, and really nice, just to, I mean, it's not hard to accept payments and set up like keeping records in place if you know what you're doing, and we can sort of like demystify that by making it more fun. So I think that's also sort of like a mission that we have, to sort of create a really nice environment for business runners and founders. Yeah.
Okay. When researching Mojoflower, we came across a term in the website that caught our attention.
Okay.
This whole idea of smart contracts marketplace. What is that? Explain that to us, please.
Okay. So essentially, like, the whole promise of Web3, it's like you can do things and you can have like smart contracts do a lot of functions. What a smart contract is, however, sometimes gets a little bit blurry, because you like have Ethereum definitions, you have like traditional definitions, and whatever. But essentially, our smart contract marketplace is a place where you can buy transactions, you can buy access to other services, and you use your Web3 identity to create those transactions. So let's say our company is on Mojoflower, and we're going to hire 10 new more employees. We can go into the smart contract marketplace, we can issue stock options through a small contract, and we'll just pay for that as we go. So we don't need to rely on like heavy subscription models to get things included, but we can just add things on as we go. So that's the idea behind the smart contract marketplace, is that it's a place where you can sort of build around your business, because we start with an idea, we can set up our ownership structure, then we can bring more founders in, then we can issue more shares to them. Then we get employees, we can issue options to them. We might want to start issuing invoices, and on Web3 we can find services that are like third-party services. So using a smart contract functionality, we can sort of add that into the marketplace. So it's sort of like a app store as well.
Yeah.
Like small app store and smart contracts where yeah.
Right, and this is an additional line of revenue for Mojoflower? Yeah. Okay, so and tell me a little bit more about the business model in general. How do you make money?
It's at the core, it's a service. So we have, ideally we do a freemium model, because we want to create the network effect, and then we do both sell our own apps, own services, for instance, more complex services. So I mean, I think if we can offer you the same functionality of an Excel sheet, that should be free, right?
Yeah.
But if you start using our platform to really extract value, you should start paying. Like if you want to use our service to transfer shares, if you want to sell shares, if you want to create offers, if you want to do more complex functions like options or whatever, then it's sort of like our vision is that, boom, okay, you're creating value, we're gonna get some value for us too. Right. But the other thing is sort of like a free-for-all access to the internet, because that's also, I guess, one of the visions of Web3 and blockchain, to sort of create an inclusive ecosystem. So yeah, freemium, subscriptions, and then add-on sales inside the platform.
All right, let's get a bit philosophical now.
Yeah.
Because we see Web3 as the emergence of an alternative system of distribution and ownership, etc., etc. But we keep hearing that Web3 is the evolution of Web2, is the next stage in the evolution of the internet. Now, when we hear about use cases like Mojoflower, we see that there's an entirely new breed of services just rising from this ideology. Do you think that this is something that stands in stark contrast with the centralized models that we've been using so far? Could they coexist in the future? What's your take on this?
I actually think that it's an evolution and it's an extension. I'm not what is called like a maxi, like you have to do this or that. It's sort of always a mix of both things. It's salt and pepper. It's capitalism and socialism. Like you have like good things and bad things. You have in democracy, you have centralization. We have sort of like mixed hierarchies and stuff because we need that. We can't really put everything into a referendum, right?
Right.
Like small decisions and like if we and this also goes into like more like local stuff. Like if you go to a party, you're not gonna ask everybody in the party like what song to play next. Like we'll assign a DJ. We'll delegate their votes to a DJ.
Right.
So it's the same thing, but Web3 and blockchain, it gives us options, more options. And in some cases, it's really cool. For instance, we see it as a new identity, how you interact with services. For instance, an example of that is we're all used to using Google as a authentication layer, essentially. Like we can log into various services and connect to other services using Google. And we can also do that to Facebook. What Web3 and blockchain sort of does is that it changed the ownership structure of the data. Is that instead of Google and Facebook sort of managing access to that data, it turns it around, puts the data here, and gives the services access to the data.
Right.
So this will enable users to move more freely between services in a much more simpler way. I mean, a lot of cool stuff that Facebook and Google have done, and obviously like EID and stuff like that. A lot of cool things, but I think it should be sort of like a right of us as users to sort of like, hey, this is my bag. I'm gonna take this bag with me, and when I move into a new place, I'm gonna use the same stuff instead of like trying to move that. So I think that's one of the big promises of blockchain. It's sort of like Web 1 is where you just like publish information, and you as a reader, you can only read it, but you can't really contribute. Then you have Web 2, where you start to contributing to the internet. You upload photos, you upload your ideas, you start blogging and stuff like that. But there's a third party that sort of owns all that data and that's stored somewhere else, and that's being monetized, right? Then it's Web 3 that gives you ownership over the data that you actually create, and then you sort of say, hey, here's my data. I'm going to give Facebook access to that because I really like Facebook as a service, but I'm not going to get logged in. And this is actually something that this is a fundamental, probably a differentiator in Mojoflower, is that you publish an asset and you issue it to the blockchain. You don't issue it to our database. So you can take your assets with you. If you don't like our service, you can just take those assets and start using another service provider, but you don't have to cut the history. Right. So you get like a seamless experience, and all of these people can sort of interact using similar, same layers of data.
So the idea that through Web3 and through blockchain and through smart contracts we'll be able to outsource trust between individuals over to technology, I think it's very appealing, right? Because it removes any gray zones that usually exist between agreements. Do you see any risk in fully outsourcing trust over to technology?
Yeah, definitely, and I don't think that that's the way for us to move forward. I mean, yeah, definitely. I think that the irreversibility of a blockchain is overestimated, meaning that something happens on the blockchain and people feel that you cannot change it. You cannot delete history, but you can change the future history. You can create a new transaction that corrects the older one.
Right.
But I mean, we are human, so Cody's law is not going to work for us. We're always going to have disagreements. We're going to have disputes. Like, if we're friends, this contract is valid. If we're not friends, this contract, I don't want it to be valid. Right. So I'll try everything I can to invalidate that contract. So there needs to be like room, because we humans aren't like black and white, yes or no. Yeah. We're not binary. We're really, really complicated. So I don't think that can solve like the whole thing. And if we overestimate that and put too much trust into that mechanism, I think there's a huge risk of like the whole thing failing. There needs to be the ability to discuss and have a dialogue about the outcome, because I mean, like I say, we are human, but there are a lot of lawyers. They are needed to settle disputes, but a lot of them are doing just like clerical work, like doing like PDFs and like doing really boring stuff that they don't enjoy. They didn't sign up for that. I think they want to help people solve real problems. So I think if we basically just outsource those sorts of logic, then we can definitely use that trust. Like we can trust that the process is going to be like A, B, C, D, and everybody can trust that. That's the process. We don't have to sort of doubt that. But then we have like this whole other thing of things that we can not agree about, we can fight about, but the blockchain is just going to help us sort of enforce, save time, and like I can be assured that you filed it the correct way.
Right. All right. And just to close, tell us what's your vision for Mojoflower, and what can we expect to see in the next 2 to 3 years?
So hopefully Mojoflower will become a home for a lot of new businesses. So when people are starting a company, we want them to think like, I want to build my company on Mojoflower. I want to set it up. I want to use Mojoflower sort of magic to grow. And alongside that, we also really want to grow with other players in the ecosystem, like other Web3 players, because we really want to create a more inclusive, more fluid sort of ecosystem of business where it's less formal, more playful, but as professional, if not even more so.
Right. Well, Oli, I say we love your solution. I think it's great that you're removing some of the barriers that perhaps are a drag for founders and for entrepreneurs. So we salute you for that, and thanks so much for coming and spending time with us.
Thank you very much.
Great meeting you. Thank you.
Great meeting you.